Hey, so I'm coming to you guys from the cockpit of the RX-7, which has been sitting very dormant, non-op status. I'm embarrassed to say how long, but to give you an indication of how long it could be, let's kind of show you from the inside. Here's the window. You barely see out of it. So decided to come and at least start it up. The battery's been pretty much out of energy. I keep it disconnected just because why have the battery plugged in if you don't intend to use it? So I put a charger on it just to kind of keep it live. And this was the first time I started the car in probably a few months. I'm embarrassed to say that as well, but it's running. A little bit of a challenge when I first connected the battery to turn it over. Nothing was happening. It was almost as if the fuel pump wasn't working or something. So I was like, what the hell's going on here? So pumped the gas pedal a little bit, or the accelerator, got some gas flowing in it, and right as the battery was kind of starting to weep out, after turning it over time and time again, it finally caught, turned over, and it's been running now for probably about 4 minutes. You know, I try to do this as often as possible, but time just kind of elapses and you forget. But it seems to be running okay. It sounds strong. It's about 4.5, 5,000 RPM. So it's like fire is coming out of the back of it. I'm actually looking forward to driving this car again. Sure, the horn still works. Yep. So anyway, just thought I'd check it out. I haven't talked about much of anything of late. The last video was the Kia Soul, car that I really enjoyed. I've since moved on to a couple of other cars that are now in the process of being videoed. So just wanted to give you an update on what's going on with the RX-7. I know I put out there sort of, hey, what would you suggest be sold before another car in the fleet if I were getting rid of a certain number of them? And I've had a lot of feedback on it. One kind of tally that I came up with was someone said, I think probably about the majority of the people were saying, get rid of the Porsche first, which I was surprised to hear, and then the M3, and then the RX-7. There's a lot of fans on the RX-7 because, well, to be honest, this car is appreciating astronomically. I mean, this car is probably worth 3 times what I paid for it. I don't know how long ago I bought this car, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And so they're going up. The Japanese sports cars are starting to rise. I think everybody's starting to get a sense that, you know, cars are going in a different direction. Combustion engines are going to be a thing of the past, especially manual transmissions. So a lot to consider there. So I think people are really trying to figure out, what would I buy? Where would I go if I wanted something classic now? And the 70s and 80s Japanese cars are kind of becoming the new classics for a new generation. So that could be a lot of why I'm hearing and seeing that. Some other ones were, I think the next one was get rid of the RX-7, and some of that was there. Keep the Porsche, get rid of the M3. Then there was the, I mean, it was all over the place, but I think the strongest proposal was get rid of everything else, keep the RX-7. So that was interesting. I've not yet figured out if I would go either way, because every time I drive one of them, and I think I've said this before in a video, the whole position changes. Where I'm thinking I'm in the M3, which I'm driving a lot more, I think, you know what, this is the one I'm gonna keep. And then I recently started up the 911, and I was like, I need to drive this car. And as soon as I do, I think I'll keep this one. Now I'm sitting in this car. I'm loving the cockpit. I mean, just the entire experience of sitting in this car. You feel like you've gone back in time a little bit, but it also feels very purpose-built. Like when you sit here, you just get a sense that this is every bit of what sports car driving was meant to be. This is some of the purest, you know, in terms of that enthusiastic driving experience from a sports car. So again, then you find yourself sort of thinking, oh, I don't know, maybe I'd keep this one. Then it's like, well, I have them all, so why been thinking about this? Well, I'm thinking about this because I'm getting to a point where managing all this stuff is a lot, because then there's the bikes. The bikes are easy to deal with because they don't take up a lot of space, and there's not a lot really to go bad on a bike that you can't fix yourself. Everything is essentially exposed on a bike. So that's not as big an undertaking as dealing with a car. You got to figure out in a car if something goes down, and then it's like a domino effect of things. So it, like with this car, when I started it up or tried to start it and it wouldn't turn over, I was like, well, it's not doesn't seem to be getting fuel. I was like, why is that? It's fuel injected, but it is old. So if it didn't start, it'd have been, well, okay, where do I start? Is it the plugs? Is it wires? Obviously you start with the fuel first, right? Because if the fuel's old, then there's an issue. Could be a clogged filter. And if that's not it, then you go to ignition. So yeah, tons of things you'd have to track down. Similar things on a bike, but a bike's going to be a little bit simpler to just work through. So again, like managing all this stuff it's a lot. Keeping batteries up. Registration in California ain't cheap. And then all the parts, getting parts for certain cars after a certain time. It gets harder and harder and harder. I think I've stockpiled as much as I could on this car for the if situation. But again, it's like, how much longer do I want to do all this stuff? And I'm thinking of, you know, downgrading at some point. One really fun car that's fairly modern, that I can just have a good time in if I want to go out for a spirited drive on the weekend or whatever. And I think when I'm in the BMW, that's kind of where my mind lands, is that this car could actually do that because it's just so easy to live with in every aspect. So anyway, the dilemma still goes on, because one day I will have a video that says, I got rid of everything except this, or I got rid of everything and got this. So we'll see. But anyway, the RX-7 still live and kicking. Get it out though. That still sounds good, man. Strong. Anyway, until next time, all-wheel drive. Peace out.